Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Neha Tulsham from Crescent Creation. Thank you for stopping by. Today's card design is camping theme and it's one of the first videos for my new series called One Design Different Size Cards. Nowadays everyone needs variety and everyone is trying to create different shapes of cards. So I thought of introducing a series where I'll show you how to put together a scene or a design in two different card shapes or sizes. I've started with an A2 size and slimline cards. It's an interactive design and it uses all of Fawn products. So let's get started. The stamp sets I used for all the images are Car Critters, You Are Sublime, Totally Awesome, That Plus Me, BEARY Happy Holidays, AHOY MATEY, MOM+ME, Screen Time, Forest Feast, and I also used one of the stamp set that I could not show here, which is Life is Good stamp set. And for today's card, I did some no-line coloring. I stamped all the images using fade out ink from Ink on 3. It's by far my most favorite ink for no-line coloring. When you stamp the images using this ink pad, you get this very light grayish color images stamped, and then as you color, the light gray line actually fades into the color. It's like it takes the color of the color you're coloring, if that makes sense. All the Copic markers used are listed on the screen, so enjoy the coloring. But if you want to skip the coloring and go directly to the process video, you can skip to 9 minutes and 28 seconds. See you after the coloring. For the slimline card, I have die cut two panels using the small die from the large stitched rectangle die with sliders die set. One will be the background panel and the other I used to die cut the mountains from the Mama Elephant snow-capped mountain dies. For my A2 size card, I used the largest die from the small stitched rectangles die from Lawn Fawn and die cut two panels, one for the background and other for the mountain that I die cut again from the Mama Elephant snow-capped mountains die. Now I'm working on the background sky. I'm using speckled egg, picked raspberry and wilted violet distress oxide inks. I'm not worrying about inking the bottom of the panel because that's gonna be hidden from the mountain die cut. I wanted a little bit of pink color peeking from behind the mountains, so I strategically placed my picked raspberry color just at the center of the panel to make sure that I can see just a little bit of pink from behind the mountains. I added wilted violet to the edges of the panel. Then I went back with all the three colors to get a better blend. I was not worried about picked raspberry blending as much. As it's gonna show just a little bit, I went ahead and added just little dabs of color where I wanted it to be. Similarly, I colored my A2 size panel. Now let's move on to working on the mountain panel. For my slimline card, I created a grass at the bottom of the mountain panel using GRASSY Stencil from Lawn Fawn. I used Mode Lawn and Lucky Clover Distress Oxide inks for this. I added Lucky Clover at the top of the grass blades to get a good dimensional look. Now to ink up the mountains, I am masking of the grass using the masking part of the stencil. I'm using Vintage Photo and Frayed Burlap Distress Oxide inks here. Now I'm adding some water splatters to the mountain. Instead of using a distress sprayer, I'm using my hands to get big drops of water splatter here. I'll let the water sit for a few seconds and then I'll blot it dry using a paper towel. I felt the water picked up a lot of color, so here I'm just adding a little bit more color to the mountain. I liked how it turned out. Now for my A2 size card, I inked the mountain panel off camera, and for the grass, I die cut the grass using Grassy Border Die from Lawn Fawn and inked up using Mode Lawn and Lucky Clover Distress Oxide inks. I've already glued the mountain panel to the background panel, and here I'm gluing the grassy border to the background panel using some liquid glue. Now I'm working on the interactive part of the card. There are 4 panels in this design. I started with creating the background, and here I'm inking the grass, but by mistake I actually used the stencil upside down and I didn't want to trash the square panels and go die cut again. So I turned the stencil the right way and created a second layer of grass. And I actually liked the look of double grass border quite a lot. And that's how I inked all the 4 panels. And to create the dirt, I masked off the grass and used antique linen and frayed burlap distress oxide inks. I did that off camera to save some time. Here are my all 4 panels ready. I'm adding water splatters to the dirt part of these panels and then I'll blot it dry using a paper towel. There is a little bit of difference in scene for both my cards. The A2 size card cannot have anything apart from the flipping mechanism in the front, but with slimline cards you get more real estate. and hence you can add more elements. So here I added a cabin, an extra car, a wood log, and few grasses to my slimline card. To create the cabin here, I'm using Lawn Fawn Build the House die set. I die cut it using white cardstock and I'm trimming it now to fit my card. Once I'm happy with the size, I'll color it using Copic markers. To color the cabin, I started with E55 Copic marker. I used the chisel tip to create a base layer. Then I used E29 and E18 Copic markers to add those wood grain effects. And then I blended everything back with E55 Copic marker. I did the same for the doors and the roof of the cabin. Once done coloring, I am using liquid glue to glue the door. I added glue just to the outside edges of the door so that I have the option to open the door if I want to. Here, with the help of my reverse tweezers, I'm picking up the door and adhering it to the cabin. Here I'm using some foam tape to glue the roof to the cabin, but later I have to take the foam tape off as it comes in way of the flipping mechanism and my flipping mechanism does not work properly. So in the finished card, you see the roof glued flat instead of any dimension. After assembling the whole cabin, I did not like the door as much. I felt it was too dull. So I came in with my Copic markers to add some color to the door. I'm using the same Copic markers as before, just trying to use more of the darker colors to create some contrast. And here I'm being very careful while coloring the edges of the door, not to go outside onto the cabin. Now let's assemble the 4 scenes for our flipping mechanism. First, I'm working on the second scene. Here, the daddy moose and the baby moose are going for a bike ride. I'm gluing everything directly to the square panels using liquid glue. You don't want to add any bulk to this mechanism. That's why I did not use any foam tapes. And once happy with all the elements that's glued onto the panel, cut off the excess that's hanging off of the panel, and just like that, scene 2 is ready. Now for my first scene, the bears go fishing. It's like daddy bear is teaching the baby bear to catch a fish. And here I just used my craft knife to cut a little slit on the pond to tuck in the fish as if it's running away from the fishing rod. Gluing few of those plants near the water. Trying to see where to glue the bear. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'll add liquid glue and glue the bear down. Now glued the fishing rod. Now putting the rock on the other side and a bucket of fish that they caught onto the rock, and then the baby bear just on top. And now cutting off the excess, and my first panel is ready. Now in the third scene, they all come together and have food together. So the story behind the whole card is that 2 dads with their kids come for camping. One of them go for fishing, the other one for a bicycle ride. Now they are all together to have food, and in the last scene, they will be in the car going back home. For my last scene, I have the card with the critters in it. I'm gluing it down and also adding a plant and a butterfly. If you notice, the headlights of the car is yellow. It means it's already evening. They were there for the whole day and now they are returning back. I die cut the base of the flipping mechanism using heavy white cardstock, and now I'm gluing all the 4 square panels onto it. The thing to remember is the last scene is the one that gets adhered completely onto the base of the flipping mechanism. Rest of them just gets adhered a little bit towards the left. So you want to make sure that you're using some strong glue to glue these panels so that they don't come undone. Here I'm gluing the mountain panel to the background panel. Now I'm gluing the flipping mechanism to the slimline panel, making sure my grass borders line up. I've added strong double-sided tape to those flaps and now adding liquid glue to make sure that this flipping mechanism does not come undone. These are the 2 flaps that keep this whole thing glued, and you're gonna keep pulling and pushing the whole mechanism in and out. So it's gonna get pulled quite a lot. So you wanna make sure you're using some strong liquid to adhere this in place. Now I'm gonna glue the rest of the elements and finish up the scene. I used liquid glue to adhere everything except the wood log. I used double-sided foam tape to pop it up. Here I'm adding some blue color using BG10 Copic marker to the headlights and windshield of the card, which I forgot to do earlier. Here I'm adding white cardstock to the back of each panel that's hanging in the flipping mechanism. It just gives each panel a cleaner look at the back. It will be easy if you do this before adhering the panels to the flipping mechanism, but I didn't think of it ahead of time and now doing it this way. It's not that hard, but it could be easier. Here I'm gluing the complete panel to a foam sheet using some liquid glue. Now I'm gluing this whole thing to a Lawn Fawn Sugar Plum card base that measures 9 by 8 inches, scored at 4 inches to create a 4 by 9 card base. For the sentiment, I'm stamping World's Best Dad, Have a Beery Amazing Day from Dad+Me stamp set using Misty stamping tool. I'm stamping World's Best and Have a Beery Amazing Day using Wilted Violet Distress Oxide inks, and for that I'm using Blueprint Sketch Distress Oxide ink here. And now I'm adhering the white sentiment panel to the base of the Flipping Awesome panel using liquid glue. Here I'm gluing that small pull tab that I die cut using white cardstock and gluing the arrow that I die cut using Sugar Plum cardstock. And that's it, the card is almost done. You can see the card in action here, and you can also see how it gets stuck a little bit because of the dimensional adhesive that I added on the roof of the cabin. Off camera, I took the dimensional tape off and glued the roof directly with liquid glue, and that makes the card move freely. Here is my A2 size card. Instead of stamping the sentiment, I heat embossed the sentiment in white, and I really like the look of this too. The sky part of the cards looked a little empty to me. That's why I grabbed this bird image from one of the stamp set and stamped in VersaFine black onyx ink, and that made the cards look complete. Lastly, I added some gel pen details. Using black gel pen, I made the eyes and nose of the critters a little more dark, and I added highlights using white gel pen. So these were my cards for today. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more such crafty videos. Also, let me know what you would like to see more in this channel. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.